At Revenge Mosaicum, there are moments that don't feel like a beginning until you realize a family has already chosen an ending. This one started under bright stage lights, with applause that kept going even as something in the air turned wrong. Eliza Thornton was being honored at a statewide academic ceremony, the kind with a lectern, a clean program, and reserved seats for the people who were supposed to be proud. Her experience matters because the sharpest loneliness isn't always being alone. Sometimes it's being left on purpose. All right, this is the part she can still hear clearly. I remember the microphone being colder than I expected. A volunteer at the side of the stage leaned in with a quick smile. "You're up next. Take your time." I nodded like my body was a well-trained dog. Smile, walk, breathe. They called my name, full and formal. Eliza Thornton. The room rose into this big, polite sound. I stepped up, hands steady, eyes searching for the section where family names were printed on little cards. 2 empty chairs. My mouth opened anyway. "Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here." And my vision pinched down to a thin tunnel. The edges went dark. The lights didn't move, but the floor did. My fingers slipped on the lectern like it had turned slick. Someone near the front stood up fast. "She's not okay." I tried to laugh it off. My tongue didn't cooperate. My knees didn't either. Then there was the hard slap of my shoulder hitting the stage, and voices turned into a rushing blur. In the emergency room, a nurse held a phone to her ear, jaw tight. "We've called 23 times." A pause. Then her posture changed. "Mr. Thornton. Yes, this is St. Matthews. Your daughter needs emergency consent for surgery." I could hear a man's voice through the speaker. Calm, distracted. "She's always handled things. Do whatever you have to do. We'll come after the dinner." The line went dead. We noticed how the room didn't fill with panic. It filled with paperwork. A doctor leaned over me, fast and gentle. "Eliza, stay with me. We're going to take care of you." And in the hallway. The only familiar footsteps were my grandfather's, arriving like he'd been running on faith. If you want more stories like this, subscribing helps keep the work going. The ceiling lights slid past above me, one after another. Someone kept saying my name, like it was a handle they were trying to grab. "Eliza, look at me." That's it. A woman with tired eyes squeezed my hand. Her badge swung forward when she leaned in. "We need consent to move you to surgery." My mouth felt thick. "My parents." She nodded once and glanced over her shoulder. "We're trying." They stopped the bed near a counter. Papers appeared, a pen. Everything looked too normal. A man in green scrubs came closer, the tumors pressing fast. Waiting isn't an option. Another voice, older, familiar. "I'm here." I turned my head. Grandpa Samuel stood by the counter, coat still on, hair out of place like he hadn't bothered with a mirror. His hand shook when he picked up the pen. "They haven't called back," the nurse said quietly. He swallowed. "They won't." The doctor slid the clipboard toward him. "If we delay, we risk permanent damage." Grandpa stared at the line where a name was supposed to go. His jaw tightened. "She's my granddaughter." He signed. The pen made a soft scratch, too small for what it meant. "Thank you," the doctor said. Grandpa leaned down until his forehead touched mine. "I'm here. Ellie, I'm not going anywhere." Then they started moving again, and the hallway faded to white. The last thing I remember before the anesthesia pulled me under was my mother's voice. Not in the room, just in my head. "You'll figure it out," she used to say. Light. Almost proud. That phrase followed me everywhere. I figured things out early. Rides to school, jobs with hours that fit around classes, scholarships, late nights that smelled like burnt coffee and printer ink. When something broke, I fixed it. When something was missing, I filled the gap. Julianne needs help with the seating chart. My mom would call from the kitchen. "I'm studying." I'd answer. A pause. You're good at multitasking. I was. Julianne floated through the house like a guest. Doors opened for her. Money appeared. When she got engaged, my dad clapped her on the back and laughed. This is a big moment. I stood at the counter folding napkins for a party that wasn't mine. Once, after finals week, I mentioned being tired. Just that word. My dad didn't look up from his phone. You're young. You bounce back. So I stopped mentioning it. Even good things felt quieter when they happened to me. Awards arrived in emails. Praise came secondhand. Your professor said you did well. Like it was a weather report. Independent, reliable, low maintenance. Useful words. Comfortable words. They let everyone believe I didn't need much. They let me believe it too. I didn't see any of it happen. I only know because people told me later, carefully, like you talk around a bruise. The surgery took almost 3 hours. That's what Grandpa said when I asked. He said it like time was something you could fold and put away. I was out for 2 days. During that time, a nurse plugged my phone in and set it on the tray by my bed. Just in case, she murmured, more to herself than to me. When I finally woke up, my throat burned and my head felt wrapped too tight. Grandpa was asleep in the chair, chin tucked to his chest, jacket still on. His shoes were scuffed at the toes. Later, when a different nurse came to check my vitals, she glanced at the phone. You've got a lot of notifications. I didn't touch it yet. That afternoon, Grandpa stepped into the hall to take a call. When he came back, his mouth was set in a straight line. They posted. He said quietly. Posted what? He hesitated. Then, photos. From the engagement party. Santa Barbara. I stared at the ceiling and let that settle. Somewhere, there were lights and glasses clinking. Somewhere, people were smiling for a camera. Grandpa pulled his chair closer. I stayed. I nodded once. That was enough to hold on to. By the second morning, the beeping faded into background noise. I could tell time by the way the light shifted on the wall. A nurse with a soft voice came in to help me sit up. Easy. You did good. Can I have some water? She brought a cup with a bent straw and waited until I took a few careful sips. Your grandfather stepped out to grab coffee. He'll be back. I nodded. The chair across from the bed was still empty. The one on the other side, too. When Grandpa came back, he smelled like burnt coffee and cold air. He smiled when he saw my eyes open. Hey, Ellie, hey. He pulled the chair closer and sat. For a minute, neither of us said anything. They know, he said finally. I stared at the blanket. I figured. They were told right away. Another pause. Longer this time. Are they coming? Grandpa exhaled through his nose. They said soon. Soon landed heavy. It always had. My phone buzzed once on the tray. Then again. I turned my head away from it. They didn't ask how you're doing, Grandpa added, not accusing, just stating a fact. I know. He reached out and covered my hand with his. His palm was warm, steady. Outside the room, someone laughed down the hall. A cart rattled past. My phone buzzed again. I let it. The phone didn't stop after that. It buzzed in short bursts, then longer ones, like someone leaning on a doorbell. I finally picked it up just to make it quiet. The screen filled with missed calls. My parents, Julianne. Numbers I recognized and didn't answer. Grandpa watched me, waiting. They didn't ask if you were awake, he said. They asked when they could come. Come here. He nodded, then shook his head a little. Not exactly. I turned my face toward him. My neck still felt stiff, like it belonged to someone else. Then what? He rubbed his thumb along the edge of the chair. A nervous habit. I'd seen it once before, at my grandmother's funeral. There's something I should have told you sooner, he said. I didn't because it wasn't meant to matter yet. Okay. When you were born, your grandmother set aside money in your name. Not college money, not something your parents controlled. He paused, letting the words land. It's a private educational trust, modest by some standards, life-changing by others. I swallowed. They didn't know. They knew there was help once. I wrote 2 equal checks years ago. One for you, one for Julianne. His jaw tightened. They deposited both. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. And the trust. I never told them about it. He looked at me then, until the night of your surgery. I was angry. I said something I shouldn't have. My phone buzzed again. Right on cue. They're not calling because they missed you, Grandpa said quietly. They're calling because they're scared. I set the phone face down. My hand was shaking, but I kept it there. They came in all at once. My mother first, moving fast like she could outrun the smell of antiseptic. My father right behind her, eyes already scanning the monitors. Julianne lingered near the door, phone still in her hand. There you are, my mother said. Breathy. We were so worried. Grandpa didn't stand. He didn't move at all. You were told, he said. His voice stayed even. My father cleared his throat. Things got complicated. Complicated, Grandpa repeated. He leaned forward just enough to rest his elbows on his knees. You answered the hospital on the 24th call. My mother's smile faltered. That's not fair. He continued anyway. You said she could handle it. You said you'd come after the dinner. The room went quiet in that way that feels deliberate. Julianne crossed her arms. We didn't know it was that serious. I looked at her then. You didn't ask. She opened her mouth, closed it, glanced at my mother. My mother stepped closer to the bed. Eliza, you have to understand. I was dealing with a lot. I waited. Her hands twisted together. Every time I look at you, I see her. Your grandmother. Her face. Her expectations. Her voice cracked, sharp and sudden. I spent years never being enough. Grandpa shifted. But I spoke first. I was a kid. I said. The words came out steady. I wasn't a stand-in. I wasn't a reminder. I was your daughter. My father sank into the chair by the wall. We didn't mean for it to go this far. But it did. I said. I reached for the envelope on the tray table and pulled it closer. The paper felt thin. Real. I'm taking what Grandma left me. I said. Not to punish anyone. To step back. Julianne scoffed. So you're just walking away. I'm standing still. I said. You're the ones who never stopped moving. No one answered that. Outside. A cart rattled down the hall. Inside, the space between us settled into something solid. They didn't leave right away. My mother stayed near the bed, hands folded too tight. My father stared at the floor like it might give him instructions. Julianne broke first. This is unbelievable, she said, grabbing her bag. You nearly die, and somehow this turns into you cutting us off. I didn't cut anyone off. I said. My voice surprised me. Calm. I stopped holding everything together. She let out a sharp laugh. Same thing. No, Grandpa said. It isn't. Julianne's mouth thinned. She looked at me once more, then walked out without saying goodbye. Her heels clicked down the hall, quick and angry. My mother's shoulders slumped after that. I don't know how to fix this, she said, quieter now. I know. I told her. That's why I'm not asking you to. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I'll get help. I nodded, not in agreement, just acknowledgement. My father finally looked up. His eyes were red around the edges. I failed you, he said. I thought staying out of it was keeping the peace. It kept things easy. I said, not safe. He swallowed and stood. If you ever want to talk, I'll let you know. I said, not today. They left together, slower than they arrived. The room felt bigger after that. Grandpa reached for my hand again. You did good. I feel tired. That makes sense. Later. A nurse came in to check my IV. You've had a lot of visitors. Yeah, I said. Enough. She smiled and adjusted the blanket. When the door closed, Grandpa stayed. The chair didn't move. Neither did he. And for the first time in days, the phone stayed quiet. A year passed without anything dramatic happening. That was the strange part. I moved into a small apartment near the school where I teach now. 1 bedroom, thin walls, a window that looks out over a parking lot, and a row of trees someone keeps trying to keep alive. It's quiet in a way I didn't know how to hear before. My dad calls sometimes. Not often. When he does, he asks simple things. How my head feels. What I'm teaching this week. He listens longer than he used to. My mom sends cards on holidays. Careful handwriting, no pressure between the lines. Julianne and I text once in a while. Short messages, neutral ground. It's enough for now. Tonight, I'm sitting in the back of the school auditorium while one of my students stands at the microphone, hands shaking, reading from a folded paper. Ms. Thornton taught me that being quiet doesn't mean you don't matter, he says, voice cracking just a little. The room claps. I don't stand. I just sit there and breathe. Grandpa is a few seats over, hands folded, eyes fixed on the stage. There are empty chairs around us. They don't feel loud anymore. After, he nudges my arm. You did that? I showed up. I say. He smiles. That's what I mean. Driving home later, windows down. I think about how much of my life I spent trying to earn space, trying to be easier, smaller, useful. I didn't know I was allowed to stop. Eliza Thornton doesn't wait for permission anymore. She chooses where she stands, who she lets close, and what quiet feels like. Some stories don't end with people changing all at once. They end with someone finally staying. We noticed that's usually enough.